What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode on Proven Power Cycles. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Eric. Lewis is on the phone out there, and Daryl's not here today, unfortunately. But today we have a 2024 R1 on the dyno, and we have a few things going on with it. Something that I really wanted to test on these R1s that thankfully this customer has given me the ability to do so.
Give it to me.
So as you guys can tell, it's 100% stock. There's 1,200 miles on the cluster. So he's just past that break-in period. The bike should do very well on the dyno, I'm assuming. It looks like he's been taking care of the bike. After speaking with the owner and discussing kind of how he rides the bike and the intentions of the bike, we have a good game plan. We have a good goal set on how we're gonna tune the bike. So the mods that we're going to do on the bike here, we are going to do an exhaust modification. He's got a slip-on style exhaust system. It is the SC1-R from SC Project, which we've done that before, I know, but there's something different that we're going to test today. He's got the Sprint POA air filter, the block-off plates, the Graves block-off plates, and the last thing that we're going to test that I'm very curious to see as compared to the other guys, and we can do this kind of near the end to see strictly what they do, but we have a set of MWR stacks. Now, admittedly, because of the timeline that we were looking at to get these stacks in, we are only going to test the lower portion of it today, okay? Or at least in this video. So I want to let you guys know that specifically, we are only going to be able to test the lowers. We've called about 6 different shops, and Toche Performance, they make the exhaust systems. His name is Justin. Great guy. Thank you, Justin, by the way. He was the only one that could confirm that he had it in stock, ready to ship, and it wasn't the full set. Nobody really even had the full set. Every time we talked to another shop or another place, they said they had it in stock, but it would take 2 to 3 weeks to get. Long story short, based on the timeline that we were trying to get these in, we just said, screw it, let's just get the lowers so at least we can test the lowers. This customer is from Ohio. I'll just do a quick little blah. They are from Ohio. They made a special trip down here just to get all of this done. And so we wanted to make sure we could fit everything in on the same day. And with those uppers being as delayed as they were, we were not going to get it in time to put it on the bike and to test the bike. So with that being said, we were like, hey, would you be okay with just testing the lowers? He was like, let's do it. So we're doing it. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to test all that today. We have a lot of data on these newer R1s, so this will be very, very interesting to see what those stacks do. And to keep it fair, like I said, what we'll do is we'll install everything else like we normally do, the OEM stacks, the block off. We've done this before, okay? We're going to tune it. We're going to see what it makes with this setup. And then what we'll do, we'll leave everything kind of loose up here, and then we'll go back into the airbox. We'll install those stacks. So we'll have a very good basically reading on the MWR lowers, at least, to give you guys an idea as to what you can pick up if you guys just do these lowers, or what will change. So we're going to show you guys good, bad, or indifferent. We're going to show you guys here on this channel. So I don't think anybody else has actually shown a comparison like this, and we're going to try to make it, again, as close as possible so we're getting a true readout on the stacks and we're not manipulating anything. So we're not going to install everything and then be like, oh yeah, these stacks did this. No, what we'll do is we'll break it down like a scientific study, and we'll make that the independent variable, and everything else we'll try to keep it as consistent as possible for you guys. Time for some baseline.
Let it pass.
So we have the fuel tank removed, some of the trim pieces taken off, the front seat is removed, so we have access to everything. So what Lewis is doing now is he's gonna take all this apart so we can get the velocity stacks out and get this airbox out And once we get the airbox and the velocity stacks and all that other jazz, once we take all that out, we'll install the, he's gonna install the block off plates, the pair valve or the AIS system delete. So that is gonna go in place. We're going to remove the O2 sensors while we're at it. And also we're gonna leave the stock stacks back in it, and we'll put the Sprint PO8 air filter in here as well. So once we have all this done, we're gonna put it all back together with the, like I said, the stock velocity stacks. And then obviously we're gonna do the slip-on. We're gonna put the SC Project slip-on on and get some new baselines, and then we're gonna do the full tune. So we're gonna get this thing all dialed in. So after we get the tune completed with the stock velocity stacks, then we're gonna move on to those MWR lowers, and we're gonna install that after we have the map dialed in. Then we'll retune the bike because the air fuel will change a little bit. You'll kind of get this little wave in the air fuel. So once we get that rectified, we'll overlay all the graphs and we'll show you the differences, what those stacks actually do. Now, I already know I have done one of these bikes with the SC Project and the not a Sprint filter, but I believe he had a DNA filter, but we did not have any velocity stacks. So this will be a really cool comparison with the Sprint filter, first of all. And that's another reason why I want to get that kind of new final number established before we swap the stacks, so we can see exactly what these velocity stacks are doing, and give you guys a real understanding if they're worth it or not. So keep in mind, just a reminder, we only have the lowers. We do not have the uppers that attach to the lowers. So we do need to grab those eventually if he allows us. This customer is from Ohio, so we'll see. He might just end on the lower set and call it. We don't know yet. We got into the airbox. We've already removed the stock filter. So what we're gonna do now, you have to take this upper row off. See how they kind of wiggle, wiggle, wiggle? So we gotta take that upper row off, and then you can unbolt the lower row, the lower velocity stacks. So once Lewis gets all that out, we're gonna unbolt this lower, and then that airbox can kind of come out. There's still some hoses like the pair valve assembly or the AIS. There's still some hoses that we're gonna have to remove afterward. You have this for your crankcase breather. So some of these hoses, we're gonna get those removed, then that airbox is gonna come out so we can have access to the AIS system and the pair valve delete, that delete system rather, the AIS delete. So the airbox, the velocity stacks, the air filter, all of the components are removed, and we are getting to the nitty gritty here. So Lewis is down where the AIS system is here. So these are the block off plates where, this is the OEM system here. So these are Loctited in. A little bit of a pain to get them out, but it's not too bad. Yamaha gives you a good amount of room to get to this. Thankfully. So yeah, thankfully, unlike some other bikes. Cowie, screw you. Love ya, screw you. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take this whole system out, that whole spider system, if you will. All that is gonna come out of this bike, and we're gonna install these flat plates. They're called block off plates. Those are gonna go on there, and then this hose right here, this hose is attached to the solenoid right there, which kind of regulates the airflow going in and out. So once we block all that off, we're gonna cap this off. No more pops and bangs for this guy. He does not like it anyway, so that is the goal with this, and it'll kind of clean up any kind of fresh air, so it takes away added heat from the motor and whatnot out of that combustion, or out of the exhaust chamber rather. So we're gonna go ahead and take that system out. We're gonna let Lewis finish it up, and we'll kind of show you guys what it should look like once he's all done here and the plates are installed. So we'll give him a minute and let him finish up. This is what the final assembly is going to look like. So here's the Graves block offs right here, nice and clean. Got this one in here, nice and clean. That whole now spider assembly, the AIS system, pair, whatever you want to call it, that all out is taken out. So we have no longer that little breather tube here that is going to it. All that mechanism is taken out. So that's how it should look. So next he's gonna throw everything back on, and make sure you guys, if your kit does come with new bolts, or even if you're reusing it, make sure you re-Loctite these with blue Loctite. It is medium strength, not permanent, all right? Blue, you want blue Loctite. Don't use red, don't be an idiot. We have the 3/4 exhaust, the SC Project exhaust installed. We have the Sprint PO8 air filter installed, and we have the block off plates installed. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna re-baseline the bike, get into the full tune. We're gonna do the full dyno tuning, ECU flashing. We're gonna go through the full gusto, and then we're gonna go ahead and swap those stacks out and see what those do, okay? So let me get the bike warmed up again, and get this thing burned up a little bit, get this thing smoking, and see what the new baseline is. All right, guys, so we got the new baseline all completed. Let's go over the numbers right now with where we're at currently. Right now, we are at a whopping 163. Now remember, guys, there is still a restriction up top, and here is that restriction right here. So it starts around this 12,000 mark, and it goes all the way to red line. But look at this mid-range to low end of mid-range already. Even though we're running pretty damn lean, this is what happens when you throw this slip-on system on. You run very, very lean, so we're all the way at 15.3 here in the low and the mid-range, but we still have about a 9 wheel horsepower gain and about a 4 pound-foot of torque gain roughly in this mid-range. So really good initial numbers here. We're gonna start throwing in a base map and getting this thing underway. All right, guys, so it is another day. We have the velocity stacks that we wanted to test. We ended up talking to the customer for quite a while yesterday, since they drove all the way down from Ohio for this. We spoke quite a bit, so we're finishing the bike up today. We just got done doing another three-pooler. We wanted to confirm the numbers today, being another new day, before we went ahead and did the stacks. So right now, what we're getting ready to do, I'm getting ready to take that fuel tank off, get the airbox lid off, swap the stacks, put it back on, and then rerun the bike. But here's where we're at so far with all the numbers. We started with 162 wheel horsepower with that blue line. Then on the red line, we had everything installed minus the velocity stacks, and we ended up at 163 peak wheel horsepower with 73 pound-foot of torque, almost 74. Now with the ECU flash and dyno tune and all the components minus the velocity stacks, we are at 78 pound-foot of torque and 182 wheel horsepower, which is exactly what I was hoping to get. That's normally what we get out of a setup with the Sprint P08 or any kind of aftermarket air filter that has a high flowing filter. We're usually around this with a damn good slip-on like the SC Project or any of the other top contenders for that matter. But that's where we're at right now. I don't want to waste a whole lot of time because what I want to do now is I want to get this fuel tank off. I want to get these velocity stacks swapped out and get this thing moving so that we can get some really good tests. So here's the other thing. I just wanted to showcase this, that exhaust is coming in nice and beautiful. Oh, that color starting to get over here. You can start to see the color coming in, but man, this exhaust is beautiful. Very, very pretty exhaust. So guys, if any of you in the future are going to be doing this, you're gonna have to take off this air box, at least the lower, and the velocity stacks have a little clip at the bottom of this thing that you gotta pinch to remove the lower stacks to get them all the way out. Not only are they bolted, but they have this other little safety mechanism down in here where it's just a little pinch fitting. So once you get that out, then the stacks can come out, just to let you know. All right, guys, so we have the stacks all taken out now. So I just wanted to show you the comparison right here on the differences. So we have our set of short MWR stacks here, and then here are the OEM stacks. So we are going, after looking at all of this, it's about the same height. This sits a smidge lower right here versus this one, it looks like. It's pretty close to tell, but either way, we're gonna test these things out. We're gonna throw these things in there. We're gonna try a few different configurations here. So I think what we're gonna try to do, to be honest with you guys, is put the OEM uppers back on these and run it like so. I think they changed this, dropped it down just a smidge so that the lowers can actually, or the uppers can sit on here like normal, but we're gonna try it out real quick. I know these aren't designed for the OEM uppers per se. I know these are more so designed for the MWR upper stacks. But it seems to me, considering nobody carries the uppers in the States, or at least at the time when we called around, nobody had the uppers in stock. I'm gonna assume that these lowers are gonna do a difference by themselves. I mean, we're at a half stack height here compared to the other one, so I'm assuming all up top end we should see some pull, a little bit better of a pull up top, but this is why we do this. It's gonna be fun to see this. Let's test it out. Let's see what we get.
We got the airbox all back on. Now, it turns out you cannot run those upper stacks. We were trying to get it configured to where we could try to get them set to run it, but you can't. So we ended up cleaning up the airbox a little bit while we were in there, and so we didn't have loose ends floating around from the original adjustable velocity stack. So we had to clean all that out, get all that to where we know nothing's gonna like flop around or go into the motor per se. So we got all that cleaned up. We're only running those lower velocity stacks. So with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and fire this thing up. Let me get the tank back on it. We're gonna fire it back up and go straight into the runs, all right?
Pretty loud in here, guys. Brandon's got the sandblaster going, the air compressor's going crazy, but whoo, hot day today. But we have something very interesting to show you guys. Now keep in mind, before I show these numbers, keep in mind this is the baseline for these stacks. But with that being said, let's go over these numbers real quick. Now, the R1, the new baseline with everything installed was 163. I don't really care too much about that, but I'm gonna leave it up here for a reason. I'm gonna show you guys here in a second. But before we peaked at 182.23 with 78 pound-foot of torque. Now our peak is 181 and 74 pound-foot of torque, right? So a lot less torque. But look at this. This is what a lot of tuners aren't going to show you. I will say that again. I am getting ready to show you stuff that other tuners either don't know how to analyze, or they don't know how to show you, or they will not show you because they're looking at peak numbers. When you look at these peak numbers, you think, oh, we're only down a horsepower so far without a tune for the stacks and 4 pound-foot of torque. Again, without a tune, but that's like, all right, that's not bad. But look at all this right here. Look at all the mid-range loss. So right now we are at a current loss of 20 horsepower in the mid-range because we're only running those lower stacks. We aren't running the uppers with these lowers, and that's my assumption of why we have such a laggy low end going into high RPM. But now look at the high RPM. High RPM holds pretty good, and our RPMs actually peaks out over here. Our peak horsepower is way at the high RPM now. It's basically all the way to redline is where we're seeing our peak horsepower number, versus before our peak number was around 13.8 is what it's saying. So our peak horsepower is happening later, along with all this power loss and massive torque loss all in the mid-range. So ultimately with this lower stack, it's a lot more sluggish. Now we can tune a lot of that out. This is very, 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 very rich. This is going to create a very sluggish kind of power curve through it. So what I'm going to do now is, just for the sake of argument, I'm going to go ahead and tune this. But you're gonna see, no matter what I do, we're still gonna have a little bit of a belly here, and I might be able to bring this top end up a little bit. Not much, a little bit, but I'm gonna show you guys, okay? I'm gonna spend the time, and I'm gonna do this to show you guys what's going on with this map and show you how it interpolates, cleaning up the map, how much power we're gonna pick up. But again, ultimately, as of right now, I believe the OEM configuration is going to be a better fit all in all versus just running these lower stacks. Now, if we had the full assembly, it might be a different story. We just don't know yet, all right? Because we couldn't get the stacks in time for this appointment, and the uppers got to be shipped in and imported from Europe. But either way, let's see what we can do, and let's see what we can bring out of this, and we'll go from there. We're kind of getting near the end of this tune, and I wanted to show you guys after we finish the tuning. Now there's still some little bit of cleanup to do on those MWR stacks, but quite truthfully, kind of at a point now where we're like, hey, even if I clean this up and make it absolutely perfect, we are not going to pick up the amount of power that we're experiencing here. So let me go over the graphs real quick and let me show you guys how the MWR lower stacks compare to a full, to the ECU flash and dyno tune with the stock stacks. So this is what I wanted to show you guys. Peak numbers are irrelevant when you look at the overall curve, okay? So the flash and tune with the stock stacks, we made 182 with 78 pound-foot of torque. We've already discussed this. This one on the MWR lowers, we made 183, but only 74 pound-foot of torque, right? So that's a pretty big difference right there. And look at where our peak numbers are. 14.4 on the MWR stacks versus 13.8. So you're making peak numbers much earlier with the stock stacks. Now again, keep in your mind, this is just the MWR lowers. It is not the full assembly. But look at this, right here, 9,000 RPM. We have a 16 wheel horsepower loss from the MWR stacks versus the OEM assembly. And we have a massive power loss all the way from basically 6,900 RPM all the way up to about 12.2, 12.4. We have power loss. That is a massive gap on the street. This bike's gonna be used for the street. So this is a massive gap of power loss and torque loss that he's gonna be experiencing versus the OEM assembly, okay? Now look up top though. This is where the MWR lowers really kind of start to shine. They pick up decent power up top, okay? We're picking up 3-wheel horsepower up top and probably another 3-wheel or so at redline, which again, you know, you're not spending a ton of time up here, but if this were a full-on track bike, yeah, another 3 horsepower or so up there. If this were a track bike, what we could theoretically do, because of the fact that it's holding the RPM pretty well here, or holding the power, like plateauing, we could extend this RPM limiter out another probably 400 or 500 RPM and see kind of where that brings us. And again, for the track riding guys, these stacks, I would probably push these a little bit more so versus the OEM stuff, but truthfully, I would want to get the uppers and do the rest of the testing and really see what the uppers combined with these lowers, what it would really do. It would be very, very interesting. I think this would be a totally different story. I think we would see a totally different curve. With all of that being said, let's pull up how he originally came in here with the stock setup. Blue is going to be our stock setup. So look, ultimately, even compared to stock, we are making way more power on the lower RPM. We lose a little bit here in the mid-range at 9K, but then we pick it all back up compared to stock, right? So compared to what he's used to riding, this bike would feel good, all in all, not great. It would feel pretty good until you get to this upper RPM, then it would be screaming. It would be like, holy shit. That thing would take off like a rocket ship and, you know, you'd be trying to hold on. But the thing is that it's a street bike and he's not out there beating the snot out of it. He's not pushing it past 12,000 RPM over and over and over again. So a lot of times we spend a lot of time from that, you know, 2,000-3,000 at stoplights all the way up to about 10-11K. That's a normal power range for the street, okay? Normal. Some of you guys are a little bit more aggressive, obviously, but all in all, it would be much wiser to run the OEM setup. You know, let's take off the MWR. So this would be the OEM setup tuned compared to how we came in stock. We have power gains everywhere. Very smooth curb, good power, good torque. This is a very fun street bike layout. This is gonna be perfect. He's gonna love this layout. So what we did is we're gonna go ahead and opt to reinstall these stock stacks, and then we're going to put the map back in it that we tuned for the stock stack calibration, and we're gonna send him on his merry way and let him go have some fun before they head back to Ohio. So I just wanted to say thank you guys for watching this episode. This was a very informative episode. I learned a lot on this episode. Comment down below, let us know if you guys learned anything. If you guys, you know, I really want to see the upper with the lowers. So if you're out there and you are watching this video and you got a newer R1, let me know. You know, I'm genuinely, I'm really curious. They say it takes about 2 to 3 weeks to get those upper stacks in. So I'm gonna talk to the owner. I'm gonna see if maybe we can barter a little bit. Maybe if he'll give us the stacks, I'll give him a credit on it. You know, we'll kind of refund them, if you will, and then we'll get the uppers for someone else. So let's just see. I don't know, but anyway, we'll figure it out. No matter what, I'd love to test the full setup. I think with that full setup, we would be seeing much different numbers. I think the MWR is onto something with their stacks.
And I think it would be a benefit, especially for you track guys out there. I think it'd be a benefit if you got that combination, if you got that set for your bike. But again, we won't know until we test. That's what I love about this. You don't know until you test it. So, and I even talked to the owner, talked to him about it, and we said the same thing. It's like, hey man, this is the whole point of testing. You know, we don't know other people's products until we test their product, and then we can give you a definitive answer. So in this case, it's gonna be crappy, you know, so it's gonna be better to go with the stock stacks in this case. So but anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. We appreciate you guys. Leave a comment down below, like, subscribe, do all the things. Please show us support. We appreciate the support that we are getting. Channel's growing thanks to you guys, and yeah, we'll see you on another episode.